I wasn't supposed to be home until Friday. That was the plan. But something felt off. I'd just wrapped up the most important deal of my career. Sold my pharmaceutical company for more than I ever thought I'd be worth. Everyone expected me to celebrate with champagne and speeches. I didn't either. I booked the earliest flight home and didn't tell a soul, not even Camila. Maybe it was the silence in her voice during our last call, or the way she brushed off my "I miss you" with a flat "we'll talk soon." So, there I was, Wednesday evening, standing in my driveway, staring at the lights glowing inside the house I built with my own two hands. I didn't feel excitement. I felt a knot in my stomach. When I stepped inside, everything was off. Music was playing, jazz, her favorite. 2 glasses on the counter. A half-empty wine bottle. Heels on the floor. A jacket I didn't recognize. Then I heard it. A low moan from upstairs. My ears rang. I didn't storm up the stairs. I moved slowly, methodically. My mind switched into the same gear I used to dismantle competitors and sign billion-dollar deals. I took my phone out. Camera ready. What I saw when I pushed the bedroom door open made something inside me go quiet. There she was, Camila, my wife of 16 years, with a man I'd never seen before. And the only thing I could think was, smile for the camera. I stood in the doorway for what felt like hours, but couldn't have been more than 10 seconds. Camila didn't see me. Neither did he. The man, tall, muscular, with a cheesy tribal tattoo crawling across his back, was too busy whispering something into her ear. She giggled. My wife, the mother of my daughters, giggled like a schoolgirl in our bed. I didn't flinch, didn't cough, didn't yell. I lifted my phone. Click. One photo. Click. Another, wider angle. Click. Both of their faces. Her eyes were half closed in pleasure. His mouth was on her shoulder. That was enough. I backed out slowly, careful not to make a sound. I felt like a ghost in my own home, floating down the stairs with a dead heart and a buzzing mind. I needed air, but I also needed revenge. Out front, I spotted a sleek gold Mercedes-Benz parked in my driveway. It wasn't hers. It wasn't mine. It had to be his. The vanity plate read FRNKSCN. Frank's season? Are you kidding me? I peeked in the window. Keys on the dash. Wallet in the center console. An expensive blazer folded in the passenger seat. Something cold and calculating took over. I opened the driver's side door. It was unlocked. I reached in, took the keys, the blazer, and the wallet. Then, just for fun, I popped the trunk. Inside were his gym bag, loafers, and what looked like a bottle of body spray called Temptation. Subtle. I dumped everything into the trunk of my own car. Then I walked back inside, went upstairs, and stood just outside the bedroom door. From inside, I heard Camila laugh again. I turned and left, quietly closing the front door behind me. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to cry. I was going to plan. She made her move. Now it was my turn. I didn't sleep that night. I drove aimlessly until the streets emptied and the sky turned from black to blue. At some point, I parked at a 24-hour diner, ordered black coffee I never touched, and stared at Franklin's wallet. Yeah, his driver's license confirmed it. Franklin J. Banner. Age 35. Car salesman. Address just outside the city. Married. Married. The irony made me snort. I wondered if his wife had any idea who her husband really was. By sunrise, I had a plan forming. Clean, cold, precise. No drama, no screaming matches. I was going to dismantle them like I dismantled bad deals. At 7:13 a.m., I pulled back into my driveway. The Mercedes still wasn't claimed. I walked inside. The music had stopped. The house was dead quiet. I opened the fridge and pulled out eggs, butter, and some leftover steak. I cooked breakfast. Full American. The smell filled the kitchen, drifted up the stairs. At 7:42 a.m., I heard movement. Thumping. A curse. A door slamming. Then hurried steps on the staircase. Franklin came into view wearing nothing but a white towel that barely reached his knees. His hair was a mess, and he looked lost. When his eyes locked on me, sitting at the kitchen island, sipping coffee from a mug that said #OneDad, he froze. Morning, I said calmly. You hungry? His lips moved, but no sound came out. Your clothes and keys are missing? I asked innocently. What a mystery. He glanced around, confused and pale. While where? Camila. I smiled. Still sleeping, I assume. Or pretending. Then I stood, slow and steady. Tell you what, Franklin. There's a trailhead about 5 miles west. Beautiful view. Lots of time to think. Maybe start walking. I'll let her know you said goodbye. He blinked. Twice. Then bolted for the door barefoot. I watched him stumble across the gravel driveway, towel flying. He looked back only once. That image, half naked, scared, exposed, burned into my memory. And I liked it. Camila didn't come downstairs until almost an hour later. Hair perfect, makeup refreshed, as if she had all the time in the world. She saw the empty plate, the coffee mug, and smiled at me. "You're home early." I looked her dead in the eye and said, "Yeah, I missed my family." She paused. Something in my voice caught her off guard. But she didn't press. Not yet. I played nice. But the game had just begun. Camila poured herself a cup of coffee like she wasn't just tangled up with another man hours ago. Like we were just another married couple enjoying a quiet morning. She sat across from me, still in her silk robe, the same one I bought her on our anniversary last year. She crossed her legs slowly and smiled like she thought she still had control. "So, how was the trip?" Her voice was soft. A little too soft. "Productive," I said. "Closed the deal early." "Wow," she replied. "That's amazing, Max." I nodded. Took a long sip of coffee. "Yeah, it was. Felt like the right time to come home, you know?" Something flickered behind her eyes. A subtle twitch. She knew, or at least suspected. But she didn't ask. Not directly. She started eating the eggs I left for her, fork clicking against the plate. "By the way," I said casually, "your friend Franklin, he left in a bit of a hurry." Didn't say much. Her fork froze. Just for a second. Then, without missing a beat, "Franklin?" I smiled. "Yeah, big guy. Tattoo on his back. Drove a gold Mercedes. You know, the one parked in our driveway last night." Camila's face didn't change much, but her eyes did. They darted. Calculating. "Oh," she said after a beat. "He's just someone I met through friends. He was dropping something off." "Dropping off what?" I asked, pretending to be genuinely curious. She hesitated, then gave a little shrug. "Something for Jane's science project." Jane was 17 and hated science. I nodded slowly. "Right. Well, he left behind his wallet. And his car. And a towel." She stood suddenly, almost knocking over the coffee. "Look, Max," I raised a hand. Calm, firm, final. "Don't. Not now." She sat back down. Quiet. Smaller. I didn't yell. Didn't accuse. That would have given her ground to stand on. I let the silence do the talking. And in that silence, something inside her started to crack. I could see it. She wasn't ready for this version of me. She expected rage. Instead, she got strategy. And that scared her more. While Camila sat in the silence of her own lies, Franklin was facing a different kind of reality. I had dropped his wallet off at the police station earlier that morning. Told the officer I found it near my mailbox and didn't feel comfortable holding on to someone else's ID. Simple. Clean. That meant Franklin, barefoot, in a towel, had to walk 5 miles through a suburban neighborhood to get back to a home that wasn't even his. I imagined him trying to flag down cars, covering himself with shrubbery, being filmed by someone's Ring camera. He was going viral somewhere right now, I was sure of it. What I hadn't expected, though, was who would open the door when he finally made it home. Molly, his wife. I didn't know her yet, but I would. I'd Googled the address from his license. And I already knew he had 2 young kids. He wore a wedding band. I saw it on the nightstand. So when Molly saw her husband standing on the porch in a bath towel, scratched up and sunburned, she knew immediately. She didn't need questions. She just said, "Get off my porch, Franklin." According to what I learned later, he stammered something about a prank, a friend's bachelor party, a wild misunderstanding. But Molly wasn't buying it. She handed him a trash bag with his clothes and slammed the door in his face. And while all that unfolded, I was back at my office, reviewing emails, scheduling meetings, drinking coffee, like nothing had changed. But everything had changed. I had all the cards. Photos. Proof. A man exposed. A wife shaken. The only thing missing now was closure. I needed to talk to someone who didn't wear perfume and lies. That's when I remembered an old college friend who became a divorce attorney. I made the call. I didn't reach out to Molly right away. I wanted it to feel natural, not forced, not vindictive. But fate doesn't wait for timing. That Friday afternoon, I was in line at a coffee shop downtown. The place was packed. I was half scrolling through emails, half thinking about whether to confront Camila that night, when I heard a voice behind me. "Max." I turned and saw a woman about my age, mid-30s, athletic build, dark auburn hair pulled into a neat ponytail. She looked tired but composed. "Strong." "Molly," I said, somehow instantly sure. Her eyes narrowed just slightly. "You know who I am? I've seen your husband's ID." We stepped outside together without another word. We sat at a table under a shaded umbrella, both sipping overpriced iced coffees we didn't really want. I take it you know what happened, she said. I walked in on them, I replied. Didn't make a scene. I just handled it my way. She nodded slowly. Franklin came home with a fake story, half naked and smelling like my lavender body wash. I threw him out. We shared a dry laugh. For the next hour, we talked. Not about them, but about us. Our careers. Our kids. The lies we missed, the signs we ignored. Turned out Molly had suspected Franklin of cheating for months, but lacked proof. The Talanoki scenario was the final straw. What struck me most was how calm she was. Pragmatic. Focused. She didn't cry, didn't rage. I'm not interested in burning everything down, she said. I'm interested in building something better. I respected that. Deeply. Before we parted ways, she looked me in the eye and said something that stuck with me. Don't let her shame become your identity. Heal on your terms. Not hers. That night, I emailed the photos to my lawyer. No explanation. Just the time-stamped truth. Camila was about to learn that silence can be louder than shouting. I didn't confront her right away. That would have given her the stage, the drama, the opportunity to twist things. I let the silence do the work. And it did. By Sunday, Camila was pacing more than usual, checking her phone constantly, snapping at the twins over nothing. When she caught me on the patio reading quietly, she walked out and stood over me. Max, she started, is there something you're not telling me? I lowered my book. Lots of things, probably. Don't play games with me, she snapped. You've been acting strange. I set the book down. You want strange, Camila? Strange is coming home to find a stranger in our bed and pretending everything is fine for 4 days. Her mouth opened, then closed. No words came. I stood up, calm and deliberate. I know. About Franklin. About the lies. About the towel, the wine, the jazz playlist. All of it. She staggered back a step, like the truth physically struck her. Max, I'm not interested in apologies, I said. Or explanations. This isn't a soap opera. She swallowed. It was a mistake. I ended it the next day, before you even said anything. I realized how stupid it was. I nodded slowly. Interesting. Because I already knew when you were saying goodbye to him with your eyes, while eating the eggs I cooked. Tears welled up. Maybe guilt. Maybe just regret for being caught. I never wanted to hurt you, she whispered. I tilted my head. You wanted something exciting. And you didn't care what you had to destroy to get it. The front doorbell rang. She flinched. I didn't. I believe that's for you, I said. It's from my attorney. Camila walked like a ghost to the door. I stayed on the patio and listened to the conversation. Quiet voices. Paper rustling. The soft closing of the door. She returned outside, hands trembling with the envelope. You're divorcing me? She asked. I looked her straight in the eyes. No, Camila. I already divorced you the moment I saw you with him. This is just paperwork. I never wanted my daughters to get caught in this mess. Jane and Joan were 17, sharp, emotionally mature, and closer to me than I probably deserved after all those late nights at the office. They'd always been able to sense tension, even if they didn't fully understand it. So when Camila and I sat them down at the kitchen table that evening, they already knew something was wrong. Jane spoke first. Are you getting divorced? Camila's lips trembled. I was the one who answered. Yes, we are. Joan's face didn't change much, but I saw her hand tighten into a fist. Jane blinked fast, like she was trying not to cry. Camila started to open her mouth, but I gently raised a hand. No lies, I said, more to her than to them. They deserve better. I looked at the girls. Your mom and I made mistakes. But I want you to know this has nothing to do with how much I love you, or how proud I am of the young women you're becoming. Silence hung heavy. Then Jane asked, was it cheating? Camila finally spoke. Yes. Her voice was quiet, raw. It was. And I'm so sorry. Joan stared at her. How many times? Camila looked down. It doesn't matter. Joan's voice sharpened. It does to me. I stepped in. You don't need the details. What you need to know is, we're moving forward. I'll be staying in the house until the transition is done. Your mom and I are working out the logistics with lawyers. They didn't cry. They didn't scream. They just nodded. Afterward, Jane came into my office. She sat on the edge of my desk, just like she used to when she was 6. You okay, Dad? She asked. I smiled weakly. Trying to be. She reached into her hoodie and pulled out a photo of the 4 of us from our beach trip 2 summers ago. I miss this, but I get it now. I see her differently. I don't hate her, but I don't trust her either. I nodded. That's fair. Then Joan poked her head in. Dad, yeah. That gold Mercedes you drove that morning, where did you get it? I raised an eyebrow. Borrowed it from a friend. She grinned. Can we borrow it when we get our licenses? We laughed. God, we laughed. For the first time in weeks, it felt like maybe, just maybe, this wouldn't break us. A week passed. Papers were filed. Camila moved into a rental downtown. The house was quiet but peaceful. One afternoon, after dropping off Joan at a school club event, I found myself driving past a bookstore cafe. On impulse, I parked. There she was, Molly, at a window seat, sipping something iced and reading a thick hardcover. She looked up and smiled. I waved and stepped in. We didn't talk about Franklin or Camila. Not right away. Instead, we talked about everything else. Our kids, her job in finance, the best pizza joints in town, hiking trails, books. It was easy, unforced. At some point, she looked at me and said, "You know, when Franklin cheated, I blamed myself for a while. Like I hadn't been enough, hadn't dressed up enough, complimented him enough. But then I realized nothing I did would have changed his choices." I nodded. Camila used to tell me she felt invisible, but instead of telling me, she made herself visible to a stranger in our bed. Molly leaned in, voice gentle. That's not your failure. That's her fear. And her choice. We talked until the sun dipped behind the trees. As we walked out together, she turned to me and said, "Max, I'm not looking for a rebound or some fairy tale recovery story." "Good," I said, "because I'm not interested in rushing toward anything. I just want to feel human again." She smiled, slow and sincere. "Coffee next week. Only if I get to pick the place this time." We exchanged numbers. And for the first time in a long while, I didn't feel like a man picking up pieces. I felt like someone starting to build again. Franklin's fall from grace wasn't just personal, it was spectacular. About 2 weeks after I caught him with Camila, I got a call from Molly. She sounded somewhere between amused and fed up. "You're not going to believe this," she said. "Franklin tried to sneak back into the house through the guest bathroom window." "What?" I choked out, already laughing. "He set off the alarm," she said flatly. "The neighbors called the cops. He got arrested for attempted trespassing. Apparently, he thought Molly would be at work. He assumed the security code hadn't been changed. Wrong on both counts. The cops found him halfway through the window, pants ripped, and smelling like whiskey and desperation. And to make it even worse, the neighbor across the street filmed the whole thing. It was already making the rounds on TikTok under the caption, "Local car salesman tries to break into his own divorce." Molly texted me the link. I didn't repost it, but I did save it. I found out later that Franklin was placed on a short leave of absence from the dealership. Something about reflecting on his choices and embarrassing the brand. Meanwhile, Camila started texting me late at night, rambling messages full of, "I made a mistake, and we were drifting apart, and please don't let the girls hate me." I didn't respond. I didn't need to. The choices she and Franklin made were echoing loudly enough without me lifting a finger. And that felt satisfying. Not vengeful. Just complete. My attorney called later that week to let me know the divorce process was moving quickly. Camila wasn't contesting anything. Not the custody agreement. Not the house. Not even the child support terms I chose to waive, because I didn't want her money. I just wanted peace. "You handled this like a pro," he told me. I hadn't thought of it that way. But maybe I had. Strategic. Clean. Done. Camila didn't fall apart overnight. No, her unraveling was slow, like watching a mirror crack, one line at a time. After the divorce was officially filed and the papers stamped, she finally did something I didn't expect. She started therapy. I only found out because Jane mentioned it during dinner. "Mom's seeing someone," she said over baked chicken. My fork paused midair. "Seeing someone new?" Jane rolled her eyes. "No. A therapist. Someone named Dr. Carville." I didn't say much. Just nodded. Later, I found myself wondering what Camila talked about in those sessions. Did she admit the affair? Did she unpack the years of neglect, the boredom, the thrill-seeking that led to Franklin? Or did she do what she used to do? Reframe everything, soften it, dodge the deeper truth? Molly once told me, people either run from their shame or wrestle with it, but only the second group ever finds peace. I hoped, for our daughter's sake, that Camila chose the second. I'd later hear bits and pieces. That she cried through her first few sessions. That she said she didn't recognize the woman she'd become. That she admitted she used the affair as an escape because she didn't know how to ask for help or attention. There was even a rumor, passed through Jane, that she confessed to her therapist she felt relieved when I didn't scream at her. "Your father's silence," Camila had said, was the loudest judgment I've ever heard. It didn't make me feel better, but it didn't make me feel worse either. Sometimes, remorse doesn't fix things, but it matters. Maybe Camila was finally facing herself, really facing herself, for the first time in years. But it didn't change what happened. Some doors, once closed, stay closed. And I had no interest in reopening them. 3 months after the divorce was finalized, Molly and I took a weekend trip to the mountains. Nothing fancy, no expectations, just air that didn't reek of tension and a view that reminded us we were still capable of breathing deeply. We stayed in a small cabin overlooking a pine valley, separate rooms, no pressure. Just 2 people, stitched by scars, learning to laugh again. On the second night, after a long hike and dinner by the fire, we sat outside on the porch. The stars above us looked like they were trying to say something. Molly broke the silence first. Do you ever think about forgiving them? I exhaled slowly. Camila? Franklin. She nodded. Forgiveness isn't the hard part, I said. It's what comes after. Trust doesn't grow back just because you've stopped being angry. I don't think trust comes back at all, she replied. I think we just stop needing it from certain people. We both sat with that for a while. Then she reached over and touched my hand. Gentle, but certain. No matter what, I'm glad we met, she said. So am I. There wasn't some dramatic kiss under the stars. No sweeping promises. Just warmth. Steady, honest warmth. The next morning, we packed up and drove back. No plans made. No labels spoken aloud. But something had shifted. Not because of who we left behind, but because of who we were becoming. 2 people who'd been shattered, but didn't let the cracks define them. And that was enough for now. 5 years slipped by like turning pages in a book you're not ready to finish. Jane graduated college with honors. Joan took a gap year to travel. And I stayed steady. Built a quieter, better life. Molly and I, we never rushed anything. What we built was slow and intentional. Our families even blended over time. Her kids and mine became something like siblings. But that summer, Jane's wedding brought everything full circle. It was a small outdoor ceremony in the hills, the kind of place where the sun caught every smile just right. Jane looked radiant. Joan teared up during her toast, and I was seated front row, hand in hand with Molly. Camila was there too. She came alone, though I later noticed a polite, well-dressed man named Carl at her side. She introduced him as a friend, but he had the calm, measured presence of someone who read contracts for a living. A lawyer, I assumed. Fitting. Camila and I didn't talk before the ceremony. Just a brief nod from across the aisle. She looked good. Older, yes, but softer. There was something in her eyes that hadn't been there the last time I saw her. Acceptance. After the dancing and photos, as the sun dipped behind the hills, we crossed paths near the dessert table. She looked at me. Really looked at me. You did a great job with them, she said quietly. They were never the problem, I replied. Camila half smiled, then looked down. Carl's good to me. Different. I'm glad, I said. And I meant it. As she turned to walk away, Joan passed by, then stopped. Dad, yeah. She glanced back toward the parking lot. Whatever happened to that gold Mercedes you drove the day you told us about the divorce? I chuckled. It wasn't mine. Just something I borrowed for dramatic effect. Joan laughed. You called it your unlucky charm. I returned it the next day. Never looked back. We watched as Camila and Carl walked toward their car. She didn't turn around. Neither did I. Molly came to my side and whispered, You okay? I nodded. More than okay. Because closure doesn't always come with words. Sometimes, it just shows up in the form of peace at your daughter's wedding. The morning after Jane's wedding, I sat on the porch of the rental cabin with a mug of black coffee, watching the mist lift off the hills. Molly was still asleep inside. Joan had gone for a morning jog. The house was quiet, the kind of silence that feels earned. I thought about everything that had happened over the last 5 years. The betrayal, the divorce, the quiet unraveling. I thought about Camila, how we started as wild and electric and ended as strangers in the same kitchen. I didn't hate her. I didn't even pity her. I simply let her go. I remembered the pain I'd felt that first night, standing in the doorway with my phone camera trembling in my hand. I remembered the ache in my daughter's eyes when I told them the truth. The humiliation, the rage, the disbelief. But I also remembered something else. The day I didn't fall apart. The day I chose clarity over chaos. Stillness over shouting. Dignity over destruction. Healing didn't come all at once. It came in pieces, through quiet moments, honest friendships, awkward laughs, and long hikes with Molly in the woods. One morning, she told me, You're not the man she broke. You're the man who built something stronger after. And she was right. If there's one thing I've learned, it's this. Your worth is never defined by someone else's betrayal. People will fail you. People will lie. But how you respond, with grace, with strength, with truth, that's where the real legacy is written. I didn't get revenge. I got freedom. I didn't win her back. I found myself. And now, with my daughters thriving, a woman beside me who sees me clearly, and a quiet heart beating steady, I know this. I am not the man who was cheated on. I'm the man who moved forward without losing who he was. And that's everything. Moral of the story. Sometimes the strongest revenge isn't destruction. It's rebuilding a life so full, so steady, and so honest that no one who ever broke you can recognize you in it. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel for more emotional, real-life tales. Your support means the world and helps us keep sharing these powerful journeys.